Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Poetry Journal Podcast. I am your host, Alex Murdoch, and I hope everyone's doing well. And thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode. Today, I just want to do something a bit different today, but still along the same line in terms of asking questions. And one of the things that I really want to, speak on is this to start. The difficulties in creating metaphors. Firstly, obviously I'll start with my take, but firstly, the one thing I think it all starts with the creating balance. And when I say balance, I mean the balance between making your metaphors relatable while being true to the art that you're creating. Meaning, if the metaphor of choice takes away from what you're trying to create, then by default, it is not the right choice of tool. Regardless if it makes it more palatable for the audience. I say this because for me, the art should always come first. Thus, in certain situations where the art makes the audience uncomfortable, that shouldn't matter. That shouldn't make a difference. You should still go ahead. You should still go ahead and create organically, in an organic type of way, as the art was intended to be in the first place, the way you envisioned, in a sense. And in any case, if it ends up being a situation where a person does end up feeling or being triggered, in a sense, by what you've created, then in essence, perhaps that's something they need to address about themselves, in a sense. Perhaps that's something that's a shortcoming, or something they've hidden away, and they might need to kind of put that in check. I might go back to that little point there later on, but I want to continue to make the point that the art should always come first. Thus, in certain situation where the art makes or the piece maintains its integrity in terms of being very powerful, I believe this is the way to go. Also, that means in sense of giving individuals the chance to learn about themselves. They may not aware of that. They may not be aware of the need to change or correct something about them. But in any case, what my point is, this is why, for me, in my opinion, if you're not staying true to your art, then what is the point? Why are you creating? That's just my perspective on it as a purist. And if you're an artist, then you should have a pure outlook on creating. I believe, whatever your art form is, you should have a purist perspective on creativity in that realm. But if it enhances your writing in a good way, as well as making it palatable for everyone, or relatable for everyone that is present. For me personally, I think that's where the true power lies when it comes to being a creative. Having the ability to stay true to your art, speaking truth to power in the absence of losing or alienating your audience, allowing them to truly enjoy the art in its most pure and truest form. Using art as a form of protest simply because it evokes a part of someone or something in someone within your audience, in a good way or a bad way. But it could be argued the creation of the art was simply for the mere creation of the individual's experience. But because it was very powerful, it conjures from the audience. It conjures feelings, or it evokes feelings from the audience. And what I mean by that is the creation of certain art. The creation of certain art comes from a pure, or could come, most of the time it does come from a pure or organic place, but it just happens, it sometimes just happens to be a coincidence that it may have invoked something in somebody that they end up feeling a way about it. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's to be determined. But in my experience, most of the time, artists create things just because that's how they envision them. However, you can't control how people are going to interpret your situation or what you've created. So that, I believe, should never be the worry when it comes to creating, because that's something you can't control. And I think one example of something along the line of what I'm speaking about is one good example is Black Panther. And when I say Black Panther, I'm talking about the actual creation of the comic and the backstory, the whole story as a whole. And it's a beautiful creation, of course, but over the years it's grown so much, and Marvel has grown so much to the point where it finally Black Panther came out in cinemas, and everybody was just enamored by how touching the story was. Like the characters, everything is just so beautiful. But certain people were triggered. It was clear certain people were triggered about the whole depiction and just the whole story, and just the fact that they had so many black cast in the whole thing. I think a lot of people were triggered by the fact that it was a black king, etc., etc. And yeah, basically it was a black story. And everybody was really triggered by the whole outline of the story, etc. You know, so much so that, so we actually missed the whole point of the story, in the sense of like, Black Panther was never meant to be a black story. It was just art. It was just the creation of art from an artistic point of view by Stan Lee. And the fact that, it was like a black or African based origin story, it was just the vision of the art. It had nothing to do with, black empowerment or anything like that. Nothing in the backstory. So with that, I would say that lesson, that whole story alone, I would take from that to say, stand to say, tell it like it is, stay true to the art. Stay true to the art. And the next segment I want to speak about is the writing process. I can't speak for everybody, and unfortunately I don't really have a guest on at the moment, so I can only speak to my writing process. And for me, as it goes, my writing process would more go towards being in the organic realm. What I mean by that is, like, I like to let the need to create come to me. When it comes to poetry, my feel for creativity was always my experience. I like to think of my experience as fodder, cannon fodder in a sense. Or in a sense of chaos. For example, I have this saying that I find it pretty much self-explanatory. I have chaos in my DNA. What does this mean? It speaks to the hardship. The most powerful form of creation, I feel, or I believe, is cultivated from trauma. Ergo, the hardship. Hence, speaking to having chaos in my DNA, and it's so to speak. I think every creative would agree that you create more profound work when you're going through hard times or the worst times. Eventually, you get to a point where you get to understand that process, which then leads to you mastering it. At this point, at this stage, you find that you can create consistently beautiful art or poetry consistently. I think after that, it's simply a question of having people resonate with your art. For your choice of words or tools you use to make your art relatable, or in creating your work. So what you see, what you feel, what you're thinking. And these are some of the examples I'm sure certain people that know my work would have heard or been familiar with certain things like this if you've heard my work. But these are some of the examples I have that I want to share with you. These are a few quotes I have. So, For example, leaving clues to healing, temporal revealing. They flock to me through time, undoing my knots, revealing the needs, be and have nots. Here's another one. Finite is but a scar tissue in the bosom of chronology, bearing witness to thee. And so here we go, another one. Candy pain, even sweeter when it rains. And this one has always stood out to me as being powerful and so many facets to it. Of course, these are all metaphors that speaks to my situation, and I feel tells a story, especially when you have a context like a full piece written poem to it. But they were so powerful, I feel like they tell a story by themselves on their own, without a full piece to accompany it. And so that's why I felt the need to kind of quote these. Here's another one. The page sniffers, the ink bleeders, creative by nature. Or perhaps the currency of thoughts or moments of explosion. And finally, the last one. In the mind of a star, nothing matters but space and time. And I thought those were apropos for this discussion. So I hope you feel the same way. And yes, but this was something that was bugging me through the week, and I thought, you know what, I wanted to share with the people. So thanks everyone for listening, and I appreciate your support. I have Poetry Journal out now on Amazon, PO3TRYJOURNAL. That's Poetry Journal, Growing Pains by Alex Murdoch, poetry book. Make sure you go and get yourself a copy. I've been having positive feedback about my work from people that have been supporting me, and I've been really confident about this work, and I really do believe in this book and what I have to say, and I believe in all I have to give. So I would encourage people to go out there and check this out. I love what I've created, and I would love for people to really share and understand why I'm speaking so highly of this book. But also I have Into the Abyss Volume 3 coming out, and if you know anything about this, is a short story series. There's the third volume out now, this 30th of June, end of this month. So I would encourage you to get a copy of that as well, and maybe follow up on the other two that's currently out at the moment. But apart from that, everyone can catch me on the Instagram. That's at Poetry Journal, same spelling as the poetry book, PO3TRY, Poetry Journal. And just keep up with what's going on. I have a lot of things working on right now, and I'll keep everyone up to date on social media, etc. So just reach out, stay in touch, or stay up to date. There's a lot going on. But thanks everyone for showing support, and I appreciate you. Speak soon. Take care. Till next time.